This episode's wine pairing is brought to us by Blending's Winery. We have a blueberry Riesling, which it was described to us as being extremely fruity and strange and a little playful, as was Vin Diesel on the set of Breakin in the USA, Breakdancing and Electric Boogie, taught to you by the pros. Thanks, Blending's Winery.
Seeing as it is episode 1 of season 1 of The Vineyard, it felt important to me to discuss what we're trying to do with this show, what we think it should be, and what we want it to be.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what I think it should be, and then why don't you tell me what you think it should be?
I would love to.
I think we need to start taking Vin Diesel seriously as an artist. I think that there's not enough critical attention paid to his work as artistic work. We talk a lot about his success in terms of money and in terms of fame and in terms of the people that he surrounds himself with, but we're not talking about his work, his acting. And so this is the show that aims to elevate Vin Diesel's filmography and work in life from what is seen as populist, popcorn kind of entertainment and into the realm of serious, scholarly, critical attention-worthy art.
I completely agree. We've discussed the idea of this being a gentleman's guide to the life, art, and career of one Vincent Diesel.
In fact, I think that is our tagline.
I believe that might be our tagline. We want to create something here that I think genuinely approaches Vin Diesel as an actor, as an artist, as a human being who wants to create things. I genuinely want to approach this not within a sense of, oh, he's a big muscle man, we want to make fun of him, and not with the sense of trying to make something that isn't there, with the sense of genuine curiosity, trying to understand who Vin Diesel is as an artist.
What are we going to discover if we look at Vin Diesel and we engage with him on the level that he clearly seems to want to be engaged with, as we've seen even in the preliminary research we've done?
100%. What do we get when we stare into the face of true creative freedom?
Yeah, he might very well stare back.
We can only hope.
The other main goal of this podcast is to host Vin Diesel here at some point or another. So
it's not so much a goal as it is an understanding of what we're putting into the universe at this point.
Vin in the Vineyard is going to be the tag.
The Vineyard is particularly long. Should we consider Vin in Vineyard? Hashtag.
With the hashtag at the end.
Hashtag.
We're going to improvise and overcome. We're going to put the hashtag at the end of the word.
Can I interest you in Diesel in Vineyard? Diesel
in Vineyard. Perfect. Yes. So hashtag Diesel in Vineyard. We're going to get him.
We're getting Vin Diesel.
Okay, now
let's dive into the actual show, shall we?
Yes.
So, episode 1. We are focusing on 2 important things. The first official time that he showed up on a screen, and then the first official time that he showed up on a good screen.
Yes.
Both of which feel very important to me. Before we get into that, though, I do think it is important to acknowledge a tiny bit of history from Vin Diesel's life.
Yeah, tell us about Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel was born and raised in New York. He went by the name Mark Sinclair for a very long time. Eventually, he was a bouncer in New York when he was, I believe, 16.
Wow.
This is where he found the name Vin Diesel. We'll get into that a little bit more when we touch on strays in our next episode. But before that, his mother was an astrologer and I believe, a therapist, possibly.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Astrologer and therapist. His father.
Wonderful combination, by the way.
Perhaps the only combination. His father, growing up, was a play director, which introduced him to the idea of the arts. Vin credits him as being the person that really made him think about art for art's sake. He made him think about what he wanted to do.
And as we both know, Vin Diesel lived a lot of his life kind of surrounded by the arts. He lived in housing that was subsidized by arts grants.
Most certainly.
Both his parents were heavily involved in the artistic scene in New York. And so you can imagine this young boy, Mark Sinclair, being surrounded by artists, leaving to become a bouncer, and then coming back and with the feeling that he has something to say.
Absolutely.
So what is the first thing that he says?
His first official debut, his first on-screen appearance, Breakin in the USA, Breakdancing and Electric Boogie, taught to you by the pros. This is an instructional VHS tape, it would appear. Best we can guess, and we haven't been able to do a ton of research because there's not a lot to know, because it seems that Mr. Vin Diesel does not want us to know about it.
And we can understand why not.
It is valid, which is why we're only dedicating a half an episode to this, out of reverence, out of understanding. Essentially, this is a breakdancing tape trying to teach you breakdancing by the pros. Pros in this case being only the technical definition of we assume have been paid to do this here today.
That prose is carrying a lot of weight, and it might as well say taught to you by several mid to late teen boys who they hired to do dances in front of a cheesy backdrop.
Yes, yeah, I might as well say that. I will say a large backdrop that makes me think there might be other Breakin' in the USA tapes.
Yes.
Something to chew on.
Yeah, maybe we'll start a Breakin' in the USA-averse show next year.
Breaking it down?
Breaking it up.
Breaking it right. So Breakin' in the USA, while technically his first debut, does not show Vin Diesel the man we know now.
No.
It's a teenage Vin Diesel. He goes by, I believe, Mark Diesel, is it? Or
it's something like that, yeah.
Mark Vincent.
Mark
he goes
Vincent.
By Mark Vincent. And it is, he's certainly in it. He's in it, I believe, when we watched it, it's an hour-long tape. When we watched it, it is on YouTube if you'd like to peruse yourself. He's probably in it for, I would say, 2 official minutes and probably 6 to 8 technical minutes.
And if you don't mind, I'll explain the distinction between true minutes and technical minutes.
It seems important.
So it seems very clear to us, having watched Breakin' in the USA, Breakdancing and Electric Boogie taught by the pros, that they recorded near about 30 minutes of content for this hour-long program, but they were courageous, they were innovative, and they decided to stretch this 30 minutes of videography into a full hour by constantly replaying old footage at different speeds, sometimes backwards, sometimes mirrored, sometimes forwards, sometimes slow motion. And so while we do see Vin Diesel himself for several wonderful, wonderful seconds.
Beautiful seconds.
Those seconds are kind of turned into this agonizing, kind of Machiavellian hellscape where we're asked to endure his pain over and over again.
There is, to be fair, an element of inescapability that I'm not particularly enjoying in this particular. Without further ado, I do feel like we really ought to get on with the show because we have something more interesting to talk about. But part of what we're doing here is that we do want to do what we call vignettes, which is basically your favorite Vin Diesel moment from the film. So Lincoln, what would be your vignette from Breakin' in the USA, Breakdancing and Electric Boogie taught by the pros?
Yeah, thanks, John. I think my favorite vignette has got to be the only unbroken sequence of video of him where he does an entire dance routine with everyone else. And it just seems like he's having so much fun for the first time in the shoot. It seems like he's actually doing something that he is showing some skill at. He previously hadn't been able to show a lot of skill previously in the tape. And this also meant that the video was almost over, which was a welcome feeling for both me and I'm assuming you as we watched it.
Hugely welcome. My personal vignette was that moment. There's a section where Vin is dancing with another person, we don't know his name, and at one point he takes the younger child and he kind of throws him betwixt the legs.
As part of the choreography.
As a part of the hugely important note, as a part of the choreography. And there is a moment where that child's heels make direct contact with his googer and beans. And here's the thing, I don't say that to make fun of him because we've all been there. It's all happened, it's happened to everyone.
We've all been on breakdancing tapes and we all know the shooting schedule's demanding, We've
all gotten kicked in the googe on a breakdancing tape. But what was important to me about this, what made it my official vignette, is that Vin is a consummate professional. He gets kicked straight in the nards and you know what he does? He keeps on dancing.
Keeps on smiling.
As should we all. Really quick, really quick, the other section we're going to do in this show. What did this teach you about Vin Diesel?
What this taught me about Vin Diesel is that he was someone who's looking for work. He was someone that was hungry to be participating in any sort of creative project. And even though he went through immense pain and suffering, as John just so clearly outlined, he was so dedicated that he stayed focused and he stayed on top of it. He stayed committed to the craft, even through difficulty.
Indeed. What this taught me about Vin Diesel is just that he was ready to be on the screen from day one.
And John, what did this teach you about movies?
The thing that this taught me about movies is that there is such an extremely low barrier to entry in terms of what you can film, what you can put on, say, YouTube, and what people will be willing to watch.
Because we did, in fact, watch it.
We did, in fact, watch it, and we are, in fact, on YouTube.
We are. And finally, this is the third question we always like to talk about. What did this teach us about ourselves? So John, what did this teach you about yourself?
Well, that's very interesting. The thing that this taught me about myself is that I'm prepared to watch an hour-long VHS tape that I don't enjoy and is kind of grueling. What did this teach you about film and yourself, Lincoln?
What this taught me about film was that it was bad for a long time. And if you didn't have the big bucks, you really couldn't make anything. And so Vin Diesel, I think, as we'll discover in the next couple episodes, kind of embodies and is the resident kind of frontman, the vanguard, if you will, of the kind of lower budget digital cinema revolution that's gonna come just around the corner.
That's beautiful.
And about myself, this taught me that if Vin can get kicked right in the nuts during a breakdancing tape and not cry, I can too.
Speaking of which, this is our next segment. And with that, I think it's about time for our reading from the Word, don't you?
I think it's time for a reading.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Thank you for that wonderful reading, John.
Absolutely, anytime. It was my pleasure.
Yeah.
Now we'd like to dive into something that's actually good and we do want to talk about, that being multifacial.
Multifacial is a short film written, directed, starring, produced, and scored by none other than Vin Diesel. And it revolves around him playing, I think, just himself.
It sure seems to be. I believe he has a different name, but yeah, I think he's...
It revolves around Vin Diesel kind of auditioning around the New York film circuit and learning that he is not necessarily white enough to play so-called white roles and not black enough to play so-called black roles. So he feels like he's kind of caught in between different worlds and different types. And so he made a movie that kind of exemplifies it and called it Multifacial. And after watching Breakin in the USA, getting to watch Multifacial, which is not an hour long, but is 10 minutes long, and did not seem like it was half an hour of footage, but rather hours and hours of footage that was cut down. It was a genuine joy. How did you feel the first time we watched it?
Completely agree. It was a breath of fresh air. There was a moment at the very beginning where we had a sincere concern that the film opens with Vin Diesel screaming horrific, awful things just sort of at the camera, saying some truly tremendously bad things that are reprehensible in every conceivable way. And we both had a moment. We paused, I believe, in the first 2 minutes of this 10-minute film. We paused and we went, I'm not 100% sure we can make
this
Vin'Yard.
might sink it because we don't want to platform the kind of speech he was espousing.
Don't feel comfortable creating an atmosphere to give light to that kind of thing. And then we hit play thinking, you know what, we'll trudge on, see what we can see. And thank God.
Thank God.
There was directly after that, camera... However, we continued to trudge on, thinking perhaps there would be a saving grace, and thank God, there was. The movie continues, and it pans over to the left, and we see that Vin was actually doing an audition.
He was reading a monologue, but then the characters who are screening his audition say, where did you get that monologue? And he says,
it's a true story.
It's a true story. Oh, we were panicked once more. But the very next scene, he's on the phone, and he is saying something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing here, he says something like, I never want to do that monologue again. It makes me sound like I'm racist and sexist and a terrible person.
I believe the word he used explicitly was misogynistic in that moment, which I thought was hugely relieving and also very forward-thinking. So,
So then we let out a resounding cheer, a hurrah, and we said, okay, we can make a show about Vin Diesel now. Because he I guess, is willing to say terrible things, but he also is willing to say that they're bad.
Yes, yeah, and while I will just, before we even get on with the show, I will say that this is not an acknowledgement or an appreciation for all of Vin Diesel's actions. I would say that it is hugely welcoming that he's not a complete D-bag all the time. That's huge. All of us have moments, and I feel comfortable doing the show.
Yes. So let's talk about Multifacial.
Let's talk about Multifacial. I personally adored the short.
I also really loved it.
I thought it was wonderful. It was on the nose in the way that I really enjoy. It felt, the whole film ends with him in a cafe, listening to the people behind him complain that the coffee is neither black enough nor white enough.
Yeah, it's very hard to get more on the nose than that, given the rest of the subject matter of the movie.
Absolutely.
But I think in the on-the-noseness, you also get this honesty and this vulnerability from Vin that feels really refreshing. I don't think of him as a particularly vulnerable actor.
No, I don't think he has that sort of pretense about him.
Yeah, and so it also really kind of, it strengthened my desire to make this show.
Absolutely.
Because it was seeing him as, no, this is someone who has something to say. This is someone who actually seems like their perspective matters.
Yeah,
and believes that their perspective matters.
I think that there is an element of, like you said, honesty, and just an element of he is admitting something openly, saying something that is a struggle for him in a way that I think is very interesting, and in such a way that I think he put the work in to make this, and I agree, it makes me more excited to make the show, as does the next film we're going to be talking about next episode. But we'll get to that in the future. But this movie really is, this short is absolutely wonderful. This is the kind of thing that feels guerrilla enough to be attainable, but good enough to be admirable. It's something that I wish I could make, quite honestly.
And I would have no reservations recommending it. It's called Multifacial. It's pretty easily accessible on YouTube. And if you have an extra 10 minutes and you want to get to know Vin Diesel when he was in his 20s, just could not recommend enough.
Honestly, I would tack it on right after this. I think it's well worth your time.
Yeah. Now, Jon, can you tell us, what did this teach you about Vin?
I think we've already sort of hit on it a little bit, but the thing that this taught me about Vin is that he's prepared to be honest. He's prepared to make a statement. He's prepared to say the things that he wants to say in ways that might not be particularly gloriously beautiful or brilliantly shot, but in ways that are heartfelt and in ways that mean something to him and therefore mean something to me.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
I think what it taught me about Vin is it's very similar, but more that he has something to say, that he is an actor who has a point to advance and has a perspective that he is completely convinced is valuable.
He's not just incredibly huge lats and traps and whatnot.
No, in addition to all that.
He also has the lats and traps.
Yeah, and so seeing Vin Diesel, and it really just makes me excited to engage with him as someone who seems to really care about his work and seems to care about bringing his message and bringing people with his sort of identity. Like, I'm so glad that he was able to kind of break past the typecast problems that he seemed to face, that we no longer think of him as someone who always plays a certain ethnicity or a certain kind of character. We see him as kind of greater than that in this broader culture.
Absolutely. What did this teach you about yourself?
What this taught me about myself is that I want to make movies. Is that if Vin could do it on whatever low budget he had and with whatever acting and resources he had, I could do something like that. I guess every lesson I've learned so far is that if Vin can do it,
I can do it.
I can do it too.
Which is not true at all, because I don't have the lats and traps and whatnot.
No, but I do have hair and he doesn't, so that's pretty great.
And yet that makes me more like Vin Diesel now, doesn't it?
What did Multifacial teach you about yourself, Jon?
Multifacial taught me about myself, similarly to you, that I want to be making things. I want to create. I want to get things out there, because you never know who's going to find it.
Yeah, maybe Vin will find it. Maybe Steven Spielberg will find it.
Either one at this point. We'd have them both on the show, to be fair.
I think in the spirit of us making this show together, we should say what we learned about cinema in perfect unison at the same time.
Well, of course.
Yeah, ready?
Yeah.
Okay, ready?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
3, 2,
2,
1.
What this taught me about cinema is that it's very easy to start making movies.
Wow,
that's beautiful. Yeah, I completely agree with you, and also me.
I agree with us as well.
What was your favorite vignette? Do you have a moment from this one?
Ooh, my favorite vignette has got to be the freestyle rapping with no accompaniment towards the end of the film.
It really does feel like that's important to mention.
It feels like someone at a party who brought out a guitar, but then they're like pretty good at guitar. They're not like astounding,
right?
But they're like good enough that you go, I think you were right that we'd want to hear this. And Vin was right, we did want to hear his freestyle rapping.
Absolutely. My favorite vignette from the film, there's a lot to choose from. I think I'm gonna have to pick what happens right after that. Right after the same interview, or same audition that he's a part of, right after he does the rap, he gets into this very heartfelt, very solid, very emotional monologue that was the first time that I've ever seen Vin Diesel act. Yeah. And it was beautiful.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us for The Vineyard.
Thank you so much. Next week, we will be addressing Strays, his feature film debut, writing, directing, acting, producing,
funding.
Perhaps.
Yeah, see you then.
Thanks for watching.